I went through the hardest thing in my life already. When I was 10 years old, I lost my mom. So you know what? I know that I can do anything. I've lived through something like this before and nothing can take me down. Even if I hit a low where I had to shut everything down, I think it's just a mindset to say, well, something better will come along. Anytime I'm having a really difficult time, I say, well, you know what? It's building character one way or another. It's another story I get to tell. It's another piece that makes me who I am.
You lost your mother at the age of 10.
Yep.
That really, put you on a journey. And then you eventually found empowerHER. So if you could go through that story a little bit.
So looking back, it really has been quite a journey to think that this whole thing really started when I was 10 years old, because I was 10 years old when my mom passed away from a brain tumor. And my mom was incredible. She was a lover of life. She helped others. She was a wonderful mom. She was a wonderful wife to my dad and was just a family person. And unfortunately, she got diagnosed with a brain tumor called glioblastoma. And that was in January of 2002, January, February timeframe of 2002. And then she passed away in that following May. So just a few months later, I was 10 years old and my brother was 14. And she passed away. And I mean, you can only imagine how difficult that was and the emotional toll that it had on my family and had on my brother and I. I mean, we were just kids. And I went through the next few years, really, it felt like a secret. I always felt rather ashamed by it because all these other girls around me had their moms and my dad was amazing. And my dad introduced my stepmom years later, which was all amazing and an amazing impact in my family and my Aunt Mandy especially. They were an amazing community for my brother and I, but I had never had anybody else come into my life that had lost a mom or a parent for that matter, or had really any kind of trauma that was even semi-relatable to what my brother and I had just gone through. And that's why I think I did keep it this secret, where I didn't like to share it with anybody. And I never really had an outlet to talk about it. It was so sad. It was so hard on my family inside my household, that it was just something that I kind of packaged up and buried away. And I lived with that and never really talked about my mom in my preteen years, in my teenage years, in my early adolescent years, and right into college. And I had always done really well in school, and my dad pushed us to work really hard, which I'm so appreciative of. But that was really on the outside. When on the inside, I had this secret, I had this thing. And had I had met another girl whose mom had died, never mind a community for girls like me, it really would have kind of shifted my self-esteem quite a bit, because it's something that you have guilt and shame that you're holding on to during these vulnerable years. It's like, how do you realize that there is a beautiful life at your fingertips when you're and like I said, my mom left kicking and screaming. I mean, she didn't want to go. And I was only 10. So so much of your brain and so much of what you learn and take with you in that vulnerable year, being a 10-year-old, how am I going to go through life? So anyway, when I had graduated from college in 2014, I was introduced to a woman in the area, in the South Shore of Boston area. Her name was Kara. And Kara had this idea to start an organization for young girls whose moms had died. And immediately it was like, oh my God, never mind, is that a woman who went through the same thing as I did? She lost her mom when she was 9 years old of breast cancer, but she wants to actually do something about this and bring young girls together. And what started around Kara's dining room table and started with 7 little girls in the Boston area who had just lost their mom, ranging from ages 5 years old to 17 years old, just completely snowballed. So I met Kara. She shared this idea with me. She shared this vision with me. I had my other job at the time, but I just hustled in whatever way I could. I became a volunteer. I helped start planning our Mother's Day retreat, which is our signature event for the girls on Mother's Day so that they're not alone on Mother's Day. I actually had a really specific situation with my mentee because empowerHER serves girls 2 ways: a one-on-one mentorship program and events for the girls throughout the year. So I became a mentor to a little girl who I had actually been the babysitter for their family. Unfortunately, the mom got sick. and left behind a little girl, Molly, as well as a 1-year-old. So that was just a whole separate conversation to watch another family go through what I went through. So I suddenly, over the years, found myself really what was once a situation that I was ashamed about and never talked about, all of a sudden became my hobby in my life. And
Yeah.
I was going on news stations talking about this, and getting my dad involved and getting my family involved. So it was at a turning point later on that I said, you know what, I'm gonna move to Los Angeles, and I'm gonna try to expand this mission out of Boston here to LA. So that's really been the journey in a nutshell.
Was there a moment after your mom passing realizing that everything was going to be okay?
So honestly, no, there wasn't, because I had
Mhm.
never addressed the issue the way that I wish that I had in the first place. But you don't know what you don't know, right? So
Mhm.
when I was 10 years old, I mean, you're just trying to survive. Like, I just wanted to fit in. I wanted to be like my friends. I wanted to act like my friends. When everybody goes to prom, I mean, and their moms are taking them to get their hair done, and to do all of these things. I just wanted to fit in. And I was fortunate enough that I did have a community in my family that was able to help me with those things. But again, it was just that it was that secret. It was like this hidden shame, that really goes down to, I just think, empowering young girls in general. When you have something like this and you feel like you don't fit in, but and I never knew to have the attitude, well, why fit in when you're born to stand out? Had I known back then, had I, as an adult, could have been able to tell my younger self, you know what, you are going to be okay, and you might even do something about this someday. Had I known that, or had met another girl, or anything along those lines, it would have helped me a lot. I do think that there was a turning point for me when I had graduated from college, when I was like 22, 23, and I did meet Kara. I think that was really the point for me, that I said, wow, you know what? I do have a story, and I'm not afraid to tell it. And a big part of telling this type of story is that you don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable when I tell them that my mom died when she was in her 40s of a brain tumor. I mean, it's awful. And it was childhood trauma for my brother and I. And there weren't resources back then for something like this. But now to get to create the resources alongside Kara and so many amazing women and volunteers and donors, everyone who makes this happen, it has completely shifted my perspective of this. I'm not afraid to tell the story at all, because I know that it's for the greater good. And when I was younger, I didn't want to make people feel uncomfortable. When me telling my story, whether or not it makes anybody feel uncomfortable, it's doing something great and it's standing out. And had I been comfortable with standing out in the first place when I was younger, I think it would have helped me. That idea would have helped me a lot.
That's just the importance of telling our story, because a lot of people have trauma that they're afraid to talk about, but when they talk about it, it helps so many other people. Yeah.
Definitely. One thing that we say that at Empower Her is, my grief is never shinier than somebody else's grief. Um,
Mhm.
and everybody has their own story. And my story is never, or my grief or anything that I've been through is never going to weigh more than somebody else's. However, being able to have a platform, or anything to share your story, even if it's just a little bit of the story, could have that ripple effect and help somebody else, and then they help somebody else. And that's what I think is so amazing about, I mean, Shay, even what you're doing with this podcast, and someone could say something on one of your podcasts, and then that helps somebody else, which helps somebody else, and it could change the world. Like, it sounds corny, but it's not, because it's possible. And that's what I think is my biggest message with Empower Her too, is that being able to help just one girl. We always say it, Empower Her. If one girl's life has been made, or shifted, or has made an impact, then we're doing our job. If we made a dent, because that's only going to help them and help those around them and help the family too.
When you joined Empower Her, was there ever a moment of hesitation to join Empower Her? Like, I don't know if you ever felt like you were kind of holding back from telling your story. And also, how has that changed your life joining Empower Her?
When I found out about Empower Her, it also identified the fact that I needed this so long before I actually even had the opportunity. because the minute that I found out about empowerHER, it was like aliens from my planet is another phrase that we say at empowerHER. It was like light bulbs went off. It was like fireworks because I thought, oh my God, Cara Belvin's mom passed away when she was 9 years old. Not only is that someone that I know, but trying to gather all of this community was like, again, it was like I felt like I got hit by a train, honestly. I was so overwhelmed, but so happy because I knew that this is something that I had wanted to get involved in. And I didn't know that until I had a space to be able to grab onto something. There was nothing there. So yes, I was so happy when I found out about empowerHER, but I never for one moment was hesitant. I never hesitated. I've never been hesitant to tell my story just because I've needed to tell my story for a long time. If my mother loss was fresher, that might be a little bit different. If I had lost my mom maybe in my later teens or in my earlier 20s. But losing my mom when I was 10 years old, it's been 18 years. So I've been wanting to tell this story, and just having the opportunity and the platform to do that has just been so life-changing.
Then you opened up a chapter in Southern California of empowerHER. Was that your idea? Did you think you were ready for that? Because I don't know how much work it takes, but I've seen you and it takes a lot of work. I've seen what you do. So, yeah, were you ever hesitant to like, can I do this?
So when I decided that I wanted to move to LA in general, it was at such a crossroad for me. I was 26 at the time, and I had never moved to another city. I had always known that I wanted to move elsewhere, but I didn't really have a good enough reason. At least I didn't think that I had a good enough reason. So I really hit this crossroad, and I had a girlfriend from my hometown who said she was moving to LA. And I said, I want to do that too. And why can't I? And in fact, not only do I want to do it just personally so that I can go to a new city and meet new people. I had grown up in Massachusetts. I went to school in Massachusetts. I vacation on Cape Cod, Massachusetts. So it felt right for me to go someplace new and give myself a new environment, and just create some opportunity. And sometimes what's best about opportunity is that you might not know what that opportunity is until you get there or until you surround yourself, just like book club. Like book club presented new opportunity that I wasn't even looking for, Shay. And it developed me so much spiritually, but also ended up being a development for empowerHER. So I think that when I made the decision to move to LA, it was mostly personal, but I knew that I had to bring empowerHER with me. But we didn't know how at that time because empowerHER at that point was just a local organization around Boston. We were serving about 200 girls, and we didn't really have a playbook for me to expand that to LA. But I said to Cara, I am expanding this one way or another, and we're going to do it. And Cara, who's just so supportive, said, go to LA and we'll figure this out. And we wrote the playbook. Cara figured it out so that I could figure out what the fundraising minimum would be for me to expand empowerHER, and how would we do it. So when I got to LA, I just started networking. I mean, to me, networking, there's like one piece of advice that I could give every single high schooler or college student. It's to network, because no matter what, networking will always benefit you one way or another. And even if it's not exactly what you want, someone in your network might be able to help you with something or connect you to somebody else. And that's exactly what happened with empowerHER in Southern California. When I moved to LA, I started networking, and we had a few women that were involved in empowerHER already that said, I'm going to introduce you to this person and that person. And I just started telling my story. I said, I'm from Boston, and I was involved in an organization called empowerHER that serves young girls whose moms pass away. And I want to bring it here to LA. Can you help me? And sure enough, a woman named Jade Mills and her daughter, Lexi La Montagna, they're real estate agents here in the Los Angeles area. They love what empowerHER does. They said, we're going to host an event for you so you can raise awareness and raise funds and do all of that and tell your story, to try to expand this mission. So just 6 months ago now, at the end of last year, October 2019, we had an event in Jade Mills's backyard, and we raised the minimum that we needed for funding, because that playbook that Kara had been writing said, in order for us to safely and responsibly do this, we have to raise a minimum amount of funding. So we were able to do that, and it snowballed. So we raised, I think it was 60 grand that night in Jade's backyard, and it just
Wow.
snowballed. And then we actually raised over the fundraising minimum. So we opened in Southern California in January. And again, this is a tip of the iceberg situation. There was a lot of sleepless nights and planning and saying, well, I want to plan this backyard fundraiser at Jade's house. I don't have a budget. I have a $0 budget. To the lighting people and to the food people and to these people, are you willing to believe in me that I will handle your name and your money and everything that you're donating to something really amazing, and you're going to be a part of that, and you're going to sponsor that, and it's a lot of pressure because people are trusting you and people are believing in you, but if you believe in yourself, then everybody else might too, and that's what happened. So we are now active. We're a subchapter here in Southern California. So we serve girls in LA and San Diego, and everywhere in between. And we're active in Massachusetts. And it's actually the whole New England area now. So we're New England and Southern California programs, and it's that's for in-person events. But that was really how it all began. It started off as an idea, and it's just with a lot of believing in yourself and a lot of hard work. But we did it.
Were you always a networking person? Was it easy for you to go meet people and talk to people?
Yeah, I mean, I'm such an extrovert, I think. So it is easy for me to tell people. I think that the years before I moved here to LA, really were priming me for what was to come, because I went from, like we said, I never told my story, to overnight telling my story all the time. So those 5 years, I think, really geared me up and helped give me the confidence to tell my story, because little did I know I would be telling my story all the time here in LA. So it's really been something that I've had to own, and something that I have to be able to say it right off the cuff. So there have been times that, being in LA, where I'm telling my story so much, and I want those who believe in this mission, to see that we are going to do it one way or another. And you can relate to my story, if you can relate to Kara's story, if you can relate to wanting to help young girls, then you're in the right place. So I think that message and the mission of empowerHER has been able to carry itself, but I definitely am appreciative, because it hasn't been a one woman show. It's taken a village for sure.
Yeah, and I think even with networking, if you feel your story is strong enough and your passion behind your story is strong enough, you're going to find a way to do it. If you're shy, if you're an introvert, you are going to find a way. I mean, successful people aren't just extroverts. There's introverts, but they have such a passion behind what they want that they tell their story.
Exactly. And I mean, I believe that if you have enough passion, you can do anything. I mean, you can be unstoppable. Because no matter what, we're going to get turned down. We've gotten turned down so many times over the past 5 years. Who would turn down a nonprofit organization that helps young girls whose moms die? But sometimes things just don't always fit. And that's okay. If it's not the right fit, then we don't want to force anything. There's something else that is the right fit. Just like it was for Jade Mills and her daughter. They didn't have mother loss, but Alexis, the daughter, she did have father loss. So she related to this in another way. And it was the perfect fit for us. And it's even like around book club, Shay. It's like there's so many people that are now involved that are from book club that might not have a direct loss, but they see the importance of this, and they relate to it in one way or another, even if it's not directly that. And I think my advice would be that, even though, I mean, I am an extrovert, sometimes I do clam up. Sometimes I get nervous. I've been behind a camera a lot of times. I've had to tell my story a lot of times, but there are always going to be moments that you're having an off day, or you are hesitant, or maybe today I don't feel like being an extrovert. I want to be an introvert. But as long as I think you're just knowledgeable and you have that passion, and nothing can take away that passion, then you'll be unstoppable, and you'll be able to get done whatever you want, or chase that dream, whatever that might be.
After moving out to California, what do you think has been the most challenging thing, and what has been the best thing?
So I'll start with the good news
Okay.
first. Being able to expand Empower Her was really beyond, I think, Kara and I's wildest dreams. Especially in the short time frame that we were able to do it. And it really gives you a sense of meaning, and it gives you such a sense of purpose. So that is really hands down the most successful and beautiful view from the top of the mountain. And that mountain took so much to climb. I mean, in it, when we fell down and we got, and we thought we were at the top, but we weren't quite at the top. But it took a lot of perseverance, a lot of grit, a lot of heart, and a lot of just believing, really, and not taking no for an answer, even when no is the answer. It's finding that alternate route, and pivoting and bobbing and weaving to make it happen. So that for sure, being able to expand Empower Her, and we're not just stopping there. That's the best part about it. I actually left my full-time job. I worked in IT, software IT. In January, I left my job because we were able to start Empower Her in Southern California. We got approval from our board. Our board was like, "Oh my God, this is getting bigger and bigger. We needed more help." So I actually didn't leave my full-time job to go work for Empower Her until January. I mean, for me, it was just burning both ends of the candlestick. It was doing whatever it took, and having that ethic, that work ethic, to say, even though I'm already doing one thing, I know what I want my future to be. So I'm just going to continue to bust my butt and be able to go after that other thing. So I've only been working for Empower Her since January. And it's just been so much change, but beautiful change in a short amount of time. Starting Empower Her Southern California, switching my job. Obviously, we got a huge curveball thrown in with COVID, but there was surprisingly some benefits to that for us as an organization. So that has definitely been my most my proudest, I guess, accomplishment since moving to LA. The most difficult part for me is just being away from my family. I love my family so much. So much of who I am is because of my dad, really. He always pushed me really hard to just do my best, work really hard in school. And I think having my grandparents, I'm Italian and Portuguese, and I grew up in kind of a multicultural family. And I've really appreciated that, and grown to value what it's taught me. Especially just having other languages being spoken, and other foods being eaten. And I'm really grateful for that, because I think it's taught me a lot, and it's taught me to be accepting. And my grandparents both have some really incredible stories getting over to this country, and coming from Portugal, which is actually now Cape Verde, but coming from there, and especially during the war and everything. So those stories have really, I think, shaped me into who I am, and helped with my morals and values ultimately.
Can you tell a little bit about the COVID-19? And I know you just had your Mother's Day retreat, virtual retreat. So can you speak on that a little bit?
So COVID-19 has been tough for everybody. I don't know anybody who hasn't had some sort of struggle during COVID-19. And running a small business, a nonprofit charity that thrives off a healthy economy, was a huge hit, and one of the scariest and most critical times in our organization, like many. I do think that it's a huge test of leadership. And we have a lot of constituents and stakeholders who are depending on us, and girls are girls that we can't fulfill on this mission now, right? Because we can't have our Mother's Day retreat. It's at a hotel, and we welcome over 200 girls. We can slash that. We can slash our mentorship program meeting in person. We can slash basically everything that we're doing, because we rely so much on the health of the economy as well. We lost over $300,000 in funding in just 6 weeks.
Wow.
Gala and our Falmouth Road Race, huge fundraising events with a whole lot of people, are no longer an option for the time being, with no end in sight. So Kara and I sat down, and we completely pivoted everything. We were working on so many incredible things. We had a great year planned, like many of us. But like I said, this is a test of leadership. What are you going to do? What are me and Kara going to do? Are we going to sit here and wait for it to be over? Or are we going to say, wait a minute, we could be strategic here? I think that there's an opportunity. So we dug deep, and it required a lot of strength. It required a lot of perseverance, because went from funding here to funding here. And where are our girls? We can't see our girls. And we had just opened up in Southern California. So we had girls that were joining who we had never even met before. So how are we going to make this happen with the funding, and how are we going to make it happen with serving our girls? Mission and development. So starting with mission, we said, okay, well, everything's moving to virtual. So let's jump on the virtual train, but let's kind of put our own spin on it. Let's make it our own. And not just our signature Mother's Day retreat, but everything else too. And how are we going to do that? So we introduced a new branch of empowerHER called empowerHER Virtual. And empowerHER Virtual puts on events like fireside chats, which is really just a check-in. Usually we have like a guest speaker come and we just talk about how we're feeling, and we kind of dive deep into the guest story. And it's a really beautiful opportunity for girls to feel like they have community, and for them to realize, wow, I am here at home. For some of these girls, their mom just passed away not that long ago. So it's a wound that is magnified. They're in isolation. So hopefully by having those fireside chats and these other events that we're putting on, they're thinking, wow, even though I am in isolation, I'm not totally in isolation. And empowerHER, we're saying that, we're not physically together, but we're not separated. So that's what empowerHER Virtual has allowed us to do. So Kara and I just got really creative and worked fast and started putting on these virtual events. It was a fireside chat. It was a book that we read, a book called Dear Girl by Paris Rosenthal. She's an author based in New York. She read it to the girls. And then we knew that we had our big event coming, which is our annual signature flagship event, the Mother's Day Retreat. So we took the Mother's Day Retreat, we took the schedule of Mother's Day Retreat, and we took a red pen to it, and we said, how are we going to make all of this happen in a virtual context? And it was incredible. And it was probably my favorite retreat thus far. We got to have instructors who we normally wouldn't have be able to be in person, since the retreat takes place in Boston. So many of our LA community, like Jade Mills, who I mentioned earlier, came on and spoke about her career and spoke about how she got to her success. We did a yoga and meditation event. Bonnie McKee, who is the songwriter for Katy Perry, she wrote the song Roar, which is a really inspiring song, and she wrote such an incredible message with that. We heard from Bonnie, we heard from Alexis Wren, who's a model and an influencer, who her mom died when she was 17, and she just got into music. So all of a sudden we had all of this new creativity and artists, and all being able to share their story in this virtual context. So we had girls, this is the best part about it, we had girls that were able to call into this, not just locally in Southern California and New England, but globally. So we had the girl in Kansas, the motherless girl in Kansas, the motherless girl in Africa, in Italy, in Switzerland. We had girls join in from over 10 different countries. So all of a sudden, even though it was really devastating what's been happening with COVID, we found an incredible silver lining, because now these girls don't have to spend Mother's Day alone, and it doesn't matter where they are in the world. They can call into this, and empowerHER quickly went from a local to a national to a global organization in a very short time frame. So it's been really, really rewarding, and has, like I said, really we've been able to find that silver lining. And our favorite saying is, instead of waiting for the storm to pass, why don't you dance in the rain? And I definitely think that applies to us, because that's what it feels like. And now this new empowerHER Virtual branch isn't going anywhere. Even when we are able to see people in person, we're still going to be able to serve that girl in Africa. And hopefully down the pike, as we get bigger, we can all fly in together for one giant Mother's Day retreat. So we have some big goals and a wonderful vision set ahead. And just putting one foot in front of the other. And no matter where the economy is, or our society, or wherever we are, we're still going to do this. We're going to make it happen no matter what.
When you tell the story, it just sounds like you've had all these successes, right? It's just boom, boom, everything worked out. And I think something to point out from that, I listened to a podcast a few weeks ago and talking about negative thoughts versus positive thoughts, because sometimes it's hard to go from negative to positive. It's like everything's canceled. Oh, it's going to be fine. We're going to be okay. But instead going to like a medium thought. And it's like, no, wait, let's think, like you said, strategically. What can we do here? We are here to help girls who've lost their. So how can we think of this? We don't have to put a positive spin on it. We don't have to bring in any negativity, but just thinking of the middle ground can really keep you focused. And it sounds like that's exactly what you did.
Thank you. I mean, yes, I would like to think that. And Kara and I are really all about being strategic and working smarter, not harder, because in any nonprofit, and anyone who has ever worked in a nonprofit can sympathize with this, we don't have these things on a silver platter handed to us. We always have to work twice or three times or four times as hard. So how do you work that much harder when you're in a global pandemic? We're already working in overdrive. So it was going from overdrive to double overdrive. And this is where, again, it's that test of leadership to say, well, are we going to be able to change our plans and still keep our head above water? Our mission's changing, our development's changing, everything is changing. And again, in the nonprofit world, it's an amazing industry, but it's a challenging industry to be in, because everybody is fighting for dollars and everybody has passion for their mission. And I have to say, well, why is my story? Why should you give your time and your talent and your dollars to me and to empower her? So we're already trying to captain that ship as it is. And COVID literally put holes in that ship. And we are trying to navigate the ship, but still plug up those holes because so much was changing in such a short amount of time. I'm really glad that we were able to still navigate and be okay and actually come out even better.
You only have 24 hours in a day. So how do you work twice as hard with the same amount of time? How do you do that?
It's such a good question, because there are days that I wake up and I'm like, I don't know how this day is going to end. And I'm sure things might change and shift throughout this day. Like, for example, when we were really in the heat of things, and we found out that the Falmouth Road Race, which is our biggest fundraising initiative, it's a 7-mile road race off Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and it brings in 150K a year. And that just literally got slashed with an email. So it's like, and now I'm emotionally brought down. I'm upset, right? I'm pissed. And I still have to make use of every hour of this day. But I think ultimately, Shay, for me, I love to take a step back and go back to the basics. When I'm feeling heated and I am like, oh my God, I'm trying to get so much done. I'm getting 100 emails an hour and I can't get this done. I go back to the basics and think, okay, what is the problem that I'm working on? And sometimes common sense can go a much longer way than people think. It's so easy to overcomplicate a situation, especially when there's emotions involved. I mean, COVID-19, nobody had the playbook. There's no rule book for COVID-19. We haven't been through something like this ever. Even our grandparents, I mean, I know they've been through wars and stuff like that, but even our grandparents are like, damn, like this is a really hard thing. So yeah. I think for me, it's just trimming the fat wherever possible, because there are only 24 hours in a day, and prioritizing is everything. Being one person, we're never going to get to check all the boxes. And, I'm 28 years old. I'm trying to run this nonprofit. I'm trying to go above and beyond with it whenever I can. But it's also this pressure of, well, make sure you meditate and work out and do this and do that and call your grandma and a million things at once all the time. But it's really narrowing that down to prioritizing and what's going to make me most effective and strategizing. I'm just all about the strategy of it. Because if one thing is going to set you up for success and another, like if I'm going to bounce off doing this one thing a little bit higher than I would than doing something else, then great. I should probably do that option. Like, it sounds like common sense, but when you're in the thick of it, it's hard to get brought back down to life. And I will just share with you what made this so much more difficult is we actually lost my grandmother during COVID, April 15th. So it was, again, right in the thick of this. We're trying to prepare for a Mother's Day retreat that was less than 4 weeks away. We had just introduced a new program, being empowerHER Virtual. So much of our funding just poof, went down the drain. How do you keep your head above water? To be honest, my answer to that, it's just for me personally, is that I feel like I could handle this because I've been through worse before. And unfortunately for me, that is, it's a sad thing for me to say. I went through the hardest thing in my life already. When I was 10 years old, I lost my mom. So you know what? I know that I can do anything. I've lived through something like this before, and nothing can take me down. And I think that for me, that helped me. I'm going to power through this because I've powered through other things. And even if it was my first, COVID, this was tough. This was really, really tough. Losing my grandmother, who practically helped raise me, was so tough. but I knew that I can still do anything, no matter what it is. I refuse to be taken down. And it's just having that drive and knowing that I've been through something difficult before is what really carried me through this.
Yeah, sometimes your biggest challenges are your biggest blessings down the road.
You don't know that at the time when you're going through it.
Exactly. Through the girls that are mentored at Empower Her, what's something that you've learned from, being around them and talking to them and everything?
So that is just the fun and best part of Empower Her. I'm the development director, and that basically means I'm in charge of funding. I'm also in charge of our promotions and expansion. So I'm actually not involved with the girls all that much because I'm really busy behind the scenes and trying to grow the organization really as a whole. So when I get to spend time with the girls, it is just incredible. And everybody has a story, and I love hearing the stories. I think for me, what really does it for me is that there's a lot of joy that these girls have, and some of them lost their mom. I mean, a couple of months ago, and it's terrible. Their mom was a beautiful young woman, or whatever the situation is, and these girls, they're still joyous, like they're still happy. And when we're all together in one, like on our Mother's Day retreat, we have 200 girls holding hands in a hotel ballroom and all connecting with one another, and they're not afraid to show their emotions. And I just love that. They're happy and they're joyful, but when there is something sad, or maybe we're doing a tribute to their moms. And Empower Her is community based. We're not center based, meaning that we don't have a home somewhere where we gather, and we're not therapeutic. We're non bereavement. We are to build community. And for these girls to be comfortable showing their feelings, and being happy. If they're having a good day on Mother's Day, then that's incredible. If they're upset on Mother's Day and they show that emotion, I adore that. I think that that's amazing, because ultimately it's just going to help them in the future. I believe it's just going to help with their self-esteem and self-expression, and being able to share their story and not be so afraid, because they're already doing it amongst this entire big group of people and volunteers and other little girls just like them. So that is a huge takeaway for me. Just their joy and them being able to show emotion, even if it's not always joy.
Yeah, and it's something that you didn't have.
That's probably why I value it so much, because I didn't feel like I had an outlet. And maybe, I mean, I think I went to therapy a little bit and when I was younger, but I don't even feel like that wasn't quite it for me. I just didn't have that place to be able to express myself. I mean, why would I? Why would I feel like I would be able to express myself? Felt like my legs were cut off from underneath me. It was like carrying, it was like being on a crutch that nobody could see, or having a broken leg but nobody noticed. And people don't know that when they first meet you. They don't know that you have this difficult situation going on, at home. And even if they do know it, it's hard to, how do you talk about it? I don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable. To have that as an adult and get to watch those young girls have that is just so fulfilling for me, because I just want the best for them and for everyone in Empower Her. So it's really is, it's totally changed my life.
How did you see your mom was, how would you describe her, and what's something that she taught you?
So this is actually a book that my mom's best friend gave to me. And it's called Dance While You Can. And it really is on theme with our theme of COVID, of why wait for the storm to pass when you can dance in the rain. So my mom was just someone who totally lived in the moment. She loved life, and she was nice to everyone that she met, and she paid it forward. And no matter what, with no reward, there was never a hidden agenda with my mom. She lived in the moment. She didn't wait for the next thing. And that's what Dance While You Can really means. That's what this book is about. It's about really just enjoying the moment. And instead of waiting, oh, I can't wait to graduate from college. Oh, I can't wait to get married. I can't wait to have kids. I can't wait to retire. And then all of a sudden your life is over. My mom never lived like that. And that's why when my mom's best friend gifted me this book, it's been such a special keepsake of mine. And it's something that I do try and live by. But with that, it is being nice to everyone that you meet has, to this day, somehow benefited me in one way or another. And I have to give you a quick example, because I mentioned that my grandmother passed away in April. Well, the hospital that she was at, I knew a girl from high school who I hadn't spoken to in maybe 4 or 5 years. that worked at that hospital. And I really wanted to FaceTime my grandmother. I wanted my family to be able to FaceTime my grandmother since obviously we couldn't see people. The hospitals weren't allowing visitors. So I reached out to this girl, Allie, that I went to high school with. And I said, Allie, I know that we haven't talked in a while, but I would just love it if there was any way that you could just send a message to my grandmother, or if you could even get her on the phone with us one way or another. Well, she worked in a total different unit in the hospital. She went to the emergency room and searched and searched, and she found my grandmother. And she called us and she FaceTimed. And she FaceTimed with my grandfather, and we got the whole family in on it. And it was sadly the last time that we got to see my grandmother face to face. And she was a little bit incoherent, but she knew that we were there because she was responding to us. And that is just one example of something that my mom lived by, about being nice to everybody that you meet. Allie and I, we were friendly in high school, but I never kept in touch with her. Had I not been nice to her back then, she might not have said, you know what, Ann Marie, I'm sorry, I can't help you this time around. But when you are nice to everybody, and again, back to the basics, just make people feel good. How would you want to feel if it was you? No matter what situation you're in, if you're in your book club or your gym or school or your career, I think that making people feel good and making them feel like that they can be comfortable. Hey, tell your story. I'm comfortable telling my story. You can be comfortable telling yours. Being nice to everyone is going to somehow change the world and could change your world and your life. And that's something that I definitely learned from my mom.
What is one way now you could level up your life?
I am trying to level up my life somehow every day. I had one little dream of starting empowerHER in LA, and it happened. So now I'm on my total high horse about dream chasing. I literally believe that anybody can do anything, myself included. And I actually learned from a professor my senior year of college at UMass. This professor, as we were graduating, it was one of our last classes, said, you know what, guys, I know that you see a lot of your mentors and you see professors and people in these careers and you think, oh my God, how am I ever going to get to that? But you know what? We all don't really know exactly what we're doing either. We're just doing the best that we can. And this was like one of the top professors at UMass. And it was just the most humble and salt of the earth thing that he could have said. And I will never forget what that professor taught me, because it really goes to show that no matter how high of an achievement that you want to get, or you see another person and you're like, I could never be like that. Like, how did that person get to where they were? Anyone can do literally anything. No matter what, if you have a disability or you have the odds against you, or your mom died, or you're this or you're that, you can do anything. So I now have that in my head that we can do anything. So I think for me to level up, I just want to raise the bar higher, just in general for empowerHER. I want empowerHER to be global and in person and global. It requires a lot of funding. It is what it is. That's the nonprofit world. In order for us to do anything safely, responsibly, effectively, we need the right funding. We've been able to do that in LA. So how can I recreate this in LA, in every major city across the United States? So every move that I make, every decision that I make, I'm always thinking forward. How is this going to ultimately help a future chapter? Because we're going to get there, because I believe that we can do anything, and we're going to get knocked down, but we're still going to come back up, and we're going to learn some way or another from being knocked down. So I'm just leveling up in that way, trying to grow and empowerHER, and looking down new avenues. What about writing a book? I found my journal when I was home for holiday break. I found my journal when I was 10 years old, when my mom was sick. I used to write about it every day. I wrote, and then beyond. I wrote when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I wrote these journals, and I found them when I was home, and they're heartbreaking, honestly. They were really hard to watch, but I think that they're going to help someone someday. So I'm looking down that avenue. What am I going to do with those journals? And I'm not quite ready yet, but I know that at one point or another, the right time will come and I'll be able to share those journals. Is it a blog, or Kara and I talking about what are we doing and look at the challenges we're facing? We incorporate a lot of humor into what we do. I live off of humor. Because during times like in April when we lost my grandfather, I'm sorry, my grandmother, I hit such a low. And I've hit a low before, like I said, but I do think humor can help get you through it and can kind of loosen you up, and then you can shift from there. So I'm trying to level up in all of those different ways. I want to grow empowerHER. I want to do new things. Nothing surprises me. If somebody called me and said, "Hey, Marie, we want to write a TV show about empowerHER," okay, cool. The opportunities are endless. And I always want to keep up with that, stay ahead, write down my thoughts. I have a random thought at 3 a.m. I'm going to write it down. Who knows? And a year from now, that thought could apply to me. The opportunities are endless, and there's no box that we have to fit in, and there's no playbook on you have to do something this way. I told my cousins, my younger 18-year-old cousins, they just graduated from college, and I told them, don't stop asking why. Just like that professor said, people think they know what they're doing, but there's amazing, incredible leaders and so many knowledgeable people out there. But why can't you write the new playbook? Why can't you make a new norm or question it? There's no answer, or there's no right way to do literally everything. Your new way could be the new right way.
How do you keep such an open mind? Because you're like, this opportunity, you are open to it. And when you say you get an idea at 3 a.m., those types of people like accept things to come to them. So how do you find yourself so open like that?
I mean, luckily, I've been able to watch the growth of empowerHER, which every step, every new opportunity that's come with empowerHER has just opened up my mind that much more. It's like double opened up my mind. And I've thought to myself, like when COVID was really, when we were in the thick of that, I said, what would we do? Like, what would Kara and I do if empowerHER had to shut its doors? Because those are conversations that had to happen. And we thought of new ways to fundraise, but what would I do? And I know that even if I hit a low, right, where I had to shut everything down, if empowerHER had to shut down and we were just in the worst of the worst of the worst situation possible, I think it's just a mindset to say, well, something better will come along. And my passion for now this cause, I feel lucky that I've been able to identify that I have a passion. And I think people can have more than one passion. And that would be a piece of advice that I would give to anyone. Even if you don't know what your passion is, just try something out and you might develop a passion for it. A passion doesn't mean that, okay, my mom died when I was 10 years old, and now my career as an adult revolves around that. Well, okay, that's obvious that it might be my passion, but anyone can have a passion if they just have to really believe in it and stick to it and run with it and pick a route and fly it. And empowerHER has been the route that I've picked and flown. But if that route got cut off, I'll find another route. I think it's just really believing in that, and staying focused on the fact that if you have that work ethic, and you are willing to do whatever it takes to make what you want happen, it's going to happen. It might take 20 years, it might take 50 years, but eventually in your lifetime, I believe it will happen. And that's how I feel about empowerHER. I know it's going to be global someday, because I won't take no for an answer. And it might take us, I might not see it in my lifetime, but you know what? I'm going to set it up so the person that does take over empowerHER someday will make it global.
What advice would you give to someone right now who it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel? Something that can kind of shift their mindset. Again, you've said so many great things, but yeah, what would you say to someone who feels like they're a little lost?
Yeah. And the feeling of being lost is so relatable. I have really felt lost myself lately since losing my grandmother. And even though I do have a lot of success in our nonprofit empowerHER, and I might have success in other areas, it doesn't mean that you might not feel lost. So that question does relate to me, very much so, because even though sometimes on the outside a person might seem a certain way, you never know what's going on the inside. Just like the 10-year-old that I once was, and the teenager that I once was, where on the outside I worked really hard, but on the inside there was suffering going on. My answer to that would be to ask for help. If you don't know where you are or what your plan is, and you are feeling lost, you're feeling rock bottom, there is so much out there now. And this is one of my favorite aspects of social media, is that on social media, you can connect with someone who might be feeling, maybe you have depression. There might be someone on social media that you just might connect with, and you start a conversation with them, and it leads you into something new. And that's just a social media example, because unfortunately we can't meet people at a coffee shop right now. So how can you meet people, or how can you reach out, or how can you get help? I really feel as difficult as it is, being able to speak out and just say, I need assistance, or I need help, or I need guidance. What is out there and what can I do? I'm jobless. Hey guys, I'm jobless and I need help. Whether it's on social media, or just calling your mom or your dad or your uncle, or just anybody who might be able to say, well, you know what? There is help for you. And you might not have a light at the end of the tunnel. But sometimes I don't know if having light at the end of the tunnel is even always the answer. We're always trying to escape problems, but without going through that problem, you're not going to grow. So if you have a problem and you immediately see that light at the end of the tunnel and you're there and you're done, well, where's the growth? I think so much of growing comes from actually not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but ask for help along the way. And in my own scenario, when I was 10 years old, there was no light at all. Like I didn't even know what tunnel I was going through. I was just trying to survive. But little did I know that as I aged and as I got smarter and got made more relationships, and I had an amazing community within my family. My Aunt Mandy is my best friend, and she's someone that I did ask for help a lot. And she helped me, and she helped me go after whatever I wanted to go after, or just take that next step, putting one foot in front of the other. But you don't always have to see the light at the end of the tunnel in order to have the answer. Sometimes, make your own light throughout the tunnel along the way. And it's going to be ups and downs, but it's only going to make you better. It's only going to make you grow. It's only going to build character. Anytime I'm having a really difficult time, I say, well, you know what? It's building character one way or another. It's another story I get to tell. It's another piece that makes me who I am, who makes Ann Marie, who makes Shay, who makes this person, that person. And those experiences are going to shape you. They are going to help you. They're going to make you wiser. I have one more quote. A smooth sea never made a skillful sailor. It's one of my favorites. My family, we all fish. We love boating. So that speaks to me a lot. So yeah, I would say that.